Have you ever wondered what separates a good weaving project from a really great one? Well, it might just be the loom you're using. So today, we're going to dive deep into the world of hand weaving and untangle a really common point of confusion. What is the real difference between the three main types of floor looms?
All right, so here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with a dilemma from a real weaver. Then we'll get into the secret of what makes a loom. Well, a loom. After that, we'll meet our three main types, solve a super common and frustrating mystery, and finally, we'll wrap it all up by figuring out how to choose your perfect weaving partner. Okay, so for any craftsperson, right, choosing your tools it's a huge first step. But for weavers, man, that choice can be a real head-scratcher. And it all starts with a choice. Let's talk about a weaver named Monica, who found herself at this exact crossroads, facing a decision that was going to shape her entire creative process. So Monica asks, a weaving friend of mine has a Swedish countermarch loom that she wants to sell me. I wove on it for a while, but the swinging treadles were a little hard to get used to. Are there any other aspects of this loom I should know about? And this question, it just gets right to the heart of it. A lot of weavers can totally relate to this, because on the surface, these looms, they might look like they're related, but believe me, their inner workings are worlds apart. And those little differences, they can totally make or break your entire weaving experience. So you've got the jack, the counterbalance, the countermarch. What is the real difference? What's the secret sauce here? Well, it's actually pretty wild. It all boils down to just one single critical action. And if you get this one thing, you've basically unlocked the whole puzzle.
All right, let's talk about the secret of the shed. And no, I'm not talking about the one in your backyard with all the gardening tools. In weaving, the shed is everything. It is so fundamental that honestly, without it, weaving it wouldn't even be a thing.
So what is it? The shed is basically the temporary opening, that little gap that's created between the upper and lower warp threads. It's the little tunnel that your shuttle passes through. Think about it. The loom creates this little magical temporary tunnel, just for a second, long enough for your shuttle to zip through with the yarn. If you don't have that tunnel, the shuttle has nowhere to go. No shed, no fabric. It is literally that simple.
Right, so every loom has to make this opening. That's job number one. But, and this is the key, how they create it is what makes them all so different. This is where it gets really cool. It's not just that they make the tunnel, it's the way they do it. And this is what we're here to talk about today.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's meet the three main contenders, the three different ways a loom can work. It's time to meet the stars of the show. All right, so at the most basic level, there are two ways to do this. You can either lift the selected threads up, that's called a rising shed. The shed literally forms above where the threads are normally resting. Or you can pull the selected threads down, which, you guessed it, is a sinking shed. That one forms below the resting line. Simple enough, right? Lift up or pull down.
First up, we've got the jack loom. This is probably the one you've seen the most. It's kind of the workhorse of the weaving world. And it's super popular for a reason. It's pretty straightforward. It creates a rising shed. You press the treadle, and a little jack literally lifts up the shafts you need. The other threads, they just stay put. It's the easiest and most common type of loom to tie up, hands down. Next, we have the counterbalance loom. This one is pretty clever. It creates both a sinking and a rising shed at the same time. The shafts are connected in pairs over these pulleys, so when you press a treadle to make one shaft go up, its partner automatically gets pulled down. It's all about that counterbalance action. As you can imagine, this works best for what we call balanced weaves, like when you have two shafts up and two shafts down.
And finally, we get to the countermarch loom. Now, this is the one Monica was asking about. It also creates a sinking and rising shed, but it's a whole different beast. Think of it like a marionette. Every single shaft is tied to two different sets of levers, one to pull it up and another one to pull it down. What does that mean? It means you, the weaver, have complete independent control over every single shaft. But, and this is a big but, all that control means it is by far the most complex and time-consuming loom to tie up.
Okay, so you might be thinking, that's cool, but what does this all mean for my actual weaving? Great question. This is where the rubber really hits the road, because these mechanical differences can lead to some surprising results. And that brings us to the great upside-down fabric mystery. Has this ever happened to you? You find a draft in a book, you spend hours and hours weaving it, you're so excited, and then you look, and the pattern is on the bottom of the fabric instead of the top. It's the worst feeling. So why on earth does that happen?
Okay, the reason is that weaving patterns, or tie-ups, are basically written for a specific type of loom. It's like a recipe. An older pattern might be written for a sinking shed loom, so it tells you which threads to pull down. But a more modern pattern, probably written with a jack loom in mind, tells you which threads to lift up. They're literally opposite instructions. If you follow a sinking shed recipe on a rising shed loom, you're gonna get an upside-down cake.
So here's how you solve the mystery. First, you look at the pattern and realize, oh, okay, this is telling me which shafts to sink. Then you look at your loom and say, right, I'm on a jack loom, which has a rising shed. So what do? You just invert the logic. Instead of tying up the shafts the pattern tells you to sink, you tie up the ones it leaves blank. And just like that, the right threads stay down, the right threads get lifted up, and you're weaving your pattern right side up. Problem solved!
See? Understanding that one practical difference helps you see why choosing a loom is so important. It's not just about the machine itself, it's about the kind of work you want to do and the experience you want to have. So let's move on and really compare these three side by side so you can think about choosing your own weaving partner.
Okay, let's break it down at a glance. Your jack loom has that rising shed. It's the fastest to tie up, which is awesome, but the warp tension can sometimes be a little uneven. Your counterbalance loom creates that sinking and rising shed. It gives you really even tension, which is great, but it really shines with those balanced weaves. And then you have the countermarch, also sinking and rising, but with very even tension, which is why it's amazing for things like rugs and linens. It gives you the most creative freedom, but it is by far the most complex and slowest to tie up. There's always a trade-off, right?
So, at the end of the day, a loom isn't just a machine, is it? It's really a partner in creation. So which one would you choose? There's really no best loom. It just completely depends on your goals, what you want to make, and even the sounds you want to hear while you work. The best loom is the one that's best for you. So the final question really is, what kind of creator are you?